If you are brand new on your coaching journey and you want to know, how can I come up with impactful coaching questions, you're in luck because I'm going to share some of my favorite coaching questions for myself and my clients right now. Hey, Courtney Sanders here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to me, I'm a full-time 7-figure certified life and business coach, as well as wife and mom. I wear all the hats and do all the things. But let's talk about coaching clients, particularly about life coaching questions, powerful life coaching questions that you can not only ask your clients, but you can ask yourself. So I got into this world of coaching really because I was trying to coach myself to achieve various goals that I was looking for. And I found that I've almost developed a bank of questions over my career, first starting with the questions that I would ask myself, and then questions that I found were really, really impactful for my clients. So if you are brand new on your coaching journey and you want to know, how can I come up with impactful coaching questions, or what are some impactful coaching questions I can ask, you're in luck because I'm going to share some of my favorite coaching questions for myself and my clients right now. All right, so before I get into the questions, I just have to say how powerful and how important being able to ask questions are. In fact, your ability to ask thought-provoking questions is what creates breakthroughs, and that is one of the most important roles that you can offer as a coach. And so if you want to not only know how to ask thought-provoking questions, but how to just be an amazing coach in general, I invite you to apply to my CLS coaching certification. CLS doesn't just stand for my initials, it stands for the Coach of Life Success, which is the designation that you will walk away with from our accredited, yes, we are accredited by a third-party coaching body, from our accredited coaching program. So you'll not only become an accredited coach, you'll also learn how to come up with your own coaching methodology. And if you so choose, there's even an option for you to learn our marketing system so that you can build a wildly successful coaching brand and become the next big name in your niche. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can click the link below, apply, and if accepted, you'll be invited to an enrollment call with my team of enrollment coordinators who will walk you through the entire process. All right, let's get into some thought-provoking coaching questions. One of my favorite coaching questions to ask clients that I came up with first by asking this myself is the question of, are you ready? Okay. If you were confident, what action would you take? Very powerful question, and I did this on myself for a very long time, especially when I found myself stuck in procrastination, and I would kind of ask myself or self-coach, okay, what is the real reason that you were procrastinating? Like, what's going on? And inevitably it was around fear, I don't feel confident, I feel like an imposter, et cetera, et cetera. And I find that this is a very powerful question to ask because oftentimes people will confuse not feeling good about the action with the inability to take action. And here's the thing, just as you can be sleepy and not go to sleep, or just as you can be hungry and not eat, right? You cannot feel confident about a particular action and take that action anyway. In fact, there's a word for it. It's called courage. Yes, you can be courageous and take the action anyway. And so I find that asking this question kind of blows away the smoke screen of, oh, I don't know what to do and I don't know what the next action to take. Oftentimes we do know what the next action to take is, we're just not confident about it. And so I love asking this question because one, it gets clear on like, okay, confidence aside, right? If you were confident, what is the next action you would take, right? We can get clear on what is the next action that needs to be taken, but oftentimes we can dig deeper into what about this situation makes you feel a lack of confidence, which is where those follow-up questions come in. And speaking of follow-up questions, one of my favorite follow-up questions to ask for the previous question, right? So the previous question was, if you were confident, what is the action you would take? I love to ask this follow-up question, which is, what is preventing you from taking that action now, right? And even if it's like, oh, but I'm scared or I don't feel confident, right. But what is preventing you, right? Nothing is physically preventing you from taking that action. If something is, or there's a perception of a lack of resources or a lack of time or something, again, I love this question because it's a jump off question to find out, okay, let's have a discussion around what you perceive as a lack of like whatever it is that you need in order to take that action. But if you know what the next right action is, right? If you were confident, right? So we're gonna get out of your current, maybe fear-based mindset, and we're gonna put you into, if you were confident, what is the next right action you would take? Oh, so you are clear, you do know what that action is. all right, what is preventing you from taking that action now? And it's a genuine question, right? Sometimes people say nothing, and then we can go right into creating an action plan in order for them to take that action. Sometimes people say things that surprise you or things that hadn't yet come up in the coaching session. So again, I love this not as like a gotcha question, but to really, facilitate the conversation of what is preventing you from taking that action that you've identified that you would have taken if you were confident. All right, this next question I love to ask is a question that is based on something that I used to use to coach myself, especially when I was going through my drama at the beginning of my career. Maybe you've heard my story about how I lost my full ride engineering scholarship and kind of got thrown into coaching on accident as I tried to coach myself back to, getting my grades back up, paying down debt, starting a business, learning about personal development, and then getting introduced to the coaching world in that way. But the question that I love to ask, and this also can be a good follow-up question for the previous two questions that we asked, right? And so that is, if your greatest fear happened, but you made it to the other side successfully, how would you tell people that you did it, right? And I came up with this question because I used to tell myself when I was going through my drama, one day I'm gonna stand on stage and I'm gonna tell people about this. And so really what this question is future casting, right? It's putting the client in their future state, their successful state, the state of the person who has overcome the thing, and it is asking them from that frame of mind, from that frame of reference, to then come up with a game plan to overcome any challenges that they are anticipating. Oftentimes, one of the biggest issues that we have is we try to solve a problem with the same thinking that created it, right? So if your thinking is fear or your thinking is this or that, and it's creating all these problems in your life, by definition, you're not gonna be able to clearly see a solution to overcome that. So you need to get out of that frame of thinking and get into really what should be your future self, right? Future cast, or get into the thinking of someone who does not have that limitation. And so I find the greatest way to do that is just simply to assume like, oh, you have this fear. What if they all laugh at you? What if you quit your job and you fail, and you don't make enough money, and like, whatever. Let's assume, or let's imagine that the worst thing happened, but you successfully made it to the other side anyway. How would you tell people that you did it? Like, what did you do, right? And so now that it's in this imaginative, brainstorming, creative mode, and we often can come up with solutions that we can then bring back into our present. It's almost like we pulled it from the future and brought it to our current selves in the present. And so I found myself doing this by brainstorming what I would tell people on stage when I was like in my lows of like, oh, I don't know how I'm gonna overcome this challenge. Okay, it's okay. One day I'm gonna be telling people about this from the stage, and I would think through what is the story that I would tell from the stage, and often the story that I came up with ended up being the actions that I could actually take in order to get out of that circumstance. All right, I have more where that came from, but first I want to hear from you. What are your favorite life coaching questions? Share in the comments below. All right, the next question I love to ask is, what would it look like to act in spite of your fear? Again, I really like to acknowledge what people are dealing with, but then I like to ask, that aside, right? So it's almost like we're just setting it aside for a second, right? We're not negating it. We're not saying it's not a thing. We're gonna address it. But before we address it, we're gonna come back to it. Let's talk about what is the clear action, right? What would you do? And so I like this question because again, sometimes fear can blind you on what it really looks like to take action. And so if we ask, if you were to act in spite of your fear, what would that look like, right? If you're coaching the person on public speaking and they're like, oh my goodness, I have this like horrible fear of public speaking, you're acknowledging the fear and you're saying, okay, hypothetically speaking, if you were gonna get up on that stage despite your fear, what would that look like? And again, allow that person to get into this imaginative state of, well, I'd probably walk on the stage and I might be, shaking, but I would just like get up there and, I would have rehearsed my lines ahead of time. And even though I had a slow start and maybe a shaky voice, I would have just, looked at the back wall and not look at anybody and just, I kept my mind focused on my speech. And again, it's like this, like, oh, I'm in the moment, right? We want to bring them into the moment and what that feels like. And this is for a variety of reasons. One, it's because, again, it creates that game plan, it creates that action plan. The person will kind of walk through what they need to do in order to overcome that. But also there's this kind of body or almost psychosomatic thing that happens where when we get into this imaginative state of what it would feel like to actually be doing the thing that we think is so hard or that we think is so fearful, in a very real sense, we start to cut the legs out from under it and it becomes less fearful because in our mind's eye, we've already done it, right? You can even practice this on yourself as you were watching this video. Think of things that you find challenging, that you find scary, and imagine what it would look like for you to do it even while you are scared, even in spite of your fear. And you will find that your body will, you'll have this like, oh my goodness, your heart will start racing as if you are doing the thing in real life. But when it actually comes time for you to do the thing in real life, it becomes less scary because you have first done it in your mind's eye. So it's a very powerful question. It it hits two birds with one stone, and it really lessens almost the somatic, feeling of whatever it is that the person ultimately is fearing when you are coaching them on achieving their goal. All right, the next life coaching question that I love to ask is, fear aside, what about XYZ actually excites you? So fear aside, what about speaking on stage actually excites you? Fear aside, what about getting back on the dating scene actually excites you? Fear aside, what about going back to school as an adult actually excites you? Fear aside, what about starting your coaching business actually excites you? I love this question because, again, it's a great way to reframe and get people out of that fear mindset where they can lock in onto, the joy, right? Oh, I'm actually really excited about XYZ. So many things happening. That physical thing starts happening, right? That somatic thing where it's like, oh, I'm having excitement, I'm feeling happy, endorphins are rushing in my body when I think about the things that actually excite me about this. I'm getting out of that fear state, but also I'm able to come up with reasons on my own, right? So, as a coach, you never want to tell people what they need to do. You want them to come up with their own reasons for why they want to take the action that ultimately moves them towards their goal. And so you simply just asking the question, well, what excites you about taking this action that you've come here, for me to coach you on, gets them into their own reasons. And they're like, well, I'm actually excited, even though this is scary and I kind of don't want to do it, but I do want to do it. I want to do it because of all these amazing things that are going to happen and all these things that I'm looking forward to, and they're coming up with their own reasons. And I find that asking that question makes it easier to ask additional questions around action steps they can take, because we've already established what is exciting, what is beneficial, what is the desire in this thing that they want to do, even though there might be some fear around it. All right, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope these questions inspired you. Again, if you want even more where this came from and really just my entire methodology on how to coach, if you want to get a coaching certification, you'll walk away with an accredited coaching certification, as well as learning how to come up with your own coaching methodology, I invite you to apply to the CLS coaching certification. You can learn all about it by clicking the link in the description box below. You can apply, and if accepted, you'll be invited to an enrollment call with my enrollment team who will walk you through the entire process. All right, thanks so much for watching. If you loved it, don't forget to subscribe. And if you can't wait for my next YouTube video, make sure you're following me on my podcast, The Courtney Sanders Show, on both iTunes and Spotify. And if you can't wait for my next podcast episode, make sure you are following me on Instagram and TikTok. My username is CourtneyLSanders on both. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.